Hi, this is Dr. Karen Becker, and today we're going to discuss low-carb, grain-free kibble. Many proactive, integrative, and holistic veterinarians have long recognized the shortfalls of commercially available dry foods. Most widely available dry foods do not contain clean ingredients approved for human consumption and are not biologically balanced for our domesticated carnivores, cats, and scavenging carnivores, dogs. This frustration led to the production of better quality dry foods that were baked with more diverse ingredients in the 80s and early 1990s. During this time, owners also saw the benefits of home-cooked diets where they could control the quality and quantity of ingredients added to their pets' meals. Although these changes addressed much of the quality control issues and began to address the biologic appropriateness of pet food ingredients, it did not address the fact that companion animals were still consuming an entirely dead, inorganic, overprocessed diet, usually extruded or cooked at very high temperatures, and devoid of all the health benefits that living foods had to offer. Dogs and cats evolved to consume living foods, unprocessed foods, and maintaining pets on completely cooked and refined foods was still very clearly impacting their health. The introduction of commercially available raw foods in the late 1990s offered tremendous additional health benefits to our companion animals because many varieties combined USDA-inspected meats with wholesome veggies in a much more biologically appropriate form. Several AAFCO-approved homemade recipes also became available and contained options for living food additions, which were fabulous. To argue whether raw food diets were appropriate for dogs and cats or are appropriate is really moot. Dogs and cats have been consuming a variety of small prey for thousands of years. Knowledgeable veterinarians have wisely forfeited the concept that cats can become healthy vegetarians and dogs will thrive on an entirely grain-based diet. Despite the fact that most of us have a desire to match as closely as possible our companion's current diet to their ancestral diet, there can be difficulties. Insufficient freezer space, cost, nutritional imbalances of poorly designed homemade diets, and finding local retailers or sources for healthy ingredients and commercially available raw diets have caused many pet owners to look for a more convenient option. Hence the introduction of low-carbohydrate, grain-free kibble or extruded pelleted diets. Some of these diets claim that they are a convenient alternative to raw food, although nothing really could be farther from the truth. Why? They are processed, which means they are no longer raw, and they have been cooked thoroughly through the extrusion process, which means they're no longer loaded with the moisture content that's really critical for normal metabolic balance. The definition of raw pet food means if it's left on the counter, it'll acquire maggots. No raw food can be kept at room temperature because it'd be putrefied. By the end of the day, it'd be totally putrefied and gross. So low-carb or no-carb, grain-free, high-protein diets are exactly what dogs and cats were designed to consume. So what's the problem with the pelleted or extruded version? Our concern lies really with moisture content. Our carnivorous companions were designed to consume moisture-rich foods. Raw foods are about 70% moisture. Grain-free, dry foods are about 12% moisture. Big difference. For years, protein has gotten a really bad rap, and proactive veterinarians have tried to re-educate the public about protein, protein quality, and protein requirements. We know that protein requirements actually increase as a pet ages, which is really quite contrary to what many people believe. This is because older pets have to combat catabolic processes and they need the biological availability of certain protein sources, and actually that really sets the ease or difficulty in terms of how animals are going to process and metabolize those proteins. So snouts and feathers, although 100% protein, are not nearly as digestible as lean muscle meat. Species-appropriate diets, which for carnivores means grain-free, that means no corn, no wheat, no rice, millet, or oatmeal, formulated in their biologically correct form, meaning raw, whole, and unadulterated and undenatured meats, contains all of the moisture needed to process the food with very little metabolic stress. The ancestral diet of dogs and cats is up to 70% water. That's right. Rabbits and mice, like our bodies, are primarily composed of water. Our pets' bodies have evolved to consume a diet that is rich with water, not extruded and not baked. When raw foods become kibble, several strange things happen, but the most detrimental thing being the food becomes too dry. This requires the body to provide sufficient moisture to reconstitute the food in the digestive tract. Although some animals may make a noble effort to consume enough water, many animals, and certainly most cats, don't. The Association of Feline Practitioners recommends owners feed cats a diet of primarily canned or raw foods versus dry foods for this very reason. A lifetime of minor dehydration is stressful to multiple organ systems and can easily be avoided by feeding foods that have not been dehydrated or dried, kibbled, or extruded. The U.S. Army has also recognized this phenomenon with their MREs, which are their meal ready-to-eat packages provided to soldiers during the field or when they're out fighting. These meals previously contained dehydrated fruits as an excellent source of energy. However, these dehydrated foods caused soldiers to become dehydrated and were subsequently removed from their rations. What are the most notable physiologic changes that can occur when our companion animals consume a dehydrated ultra-high protein diet? Kidney stress, liver stress, and metabolic stress. These convenient alternative foods to our pets' ancestral diets look great at first glance, but they do pose potential health risks if fed as a sole diet food in terms of indefinite food sources for our pets. Remember, our pets' bodies are resilient. They can eat some trendy grain-free, low-carbohydrate dry foods that are currently available on the market, and they can be fine. But because it's our goal to provide a diet that is really close to what the ancestral diet is, or what mostly resembles our companions' biological requirements, we really don't recommend a lifetime of any brand of any one specific grain-free kibble because the moisture content is simply not biologically correct. This is why my first recommendation is to feed a raw food diet. It's grain-free, it's moisture-dense, it's living, and of course, it's fresh. My next recommendation is canned food or a gently dehydrated raw food that can be reconstituted with water to become a 70% or more moisture-rich diet. The difference between air-dehydrated foods and extruded foods is temperature, a big key. Foods that are not cooked or extruded at high temperatures retain more nutritional value. When air-dried foods are reconstituted with water prior to feeding, they also provide a moisture-rich food that is significantly healthier than any other dry kibble on the market. Remember to check with each pet food manufacturer to make sure that whatever food you decide to feed is nutritionally balanced. Many of the new niche pet foods popping up are intended for, it says on the label, intermittent feeding only, which really means that they're not a balanced food and they should be fed in rotation with other foods to create a healthy, balanced diet for your companion.